We're back with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing, and today we're talking about Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes for Nintendo Switch. We got a review copy, so I've had my hands on this one for a while. This might not be exactly what you wanted. Instead of it being like a full No More Heroes 3 style game, this is absolutely just a spin-off, so I think it really helps to check your expectations at the door. I don't really think this game will make any new fans at all. It doesn't really seem like it wants to. This feels like a game for Travis Touchdown fans to just pass the time with, because Travis Strikes Again has all the heart of a Suda51 game in all honesty. It's got a refreshing attitude towards video games, the culture, and the business behind games that amazingly kind of straddles such a good line between being weird and funny and unique, but not quite going too far into cringe-inducing territory. For my tastes, most of the time it lands just right. Like a lot of games that have dropped recently, Travis Strikes Again does a good job of sort of honoring and celebrating video games, and it does it in its own unique way with the structures of the entire game. For the most part, it's like a top-down, simple, hack-and-slashy affair. Travis is using the Death Drive Mark II game console in his crappy trailer. The Death Drive is kind of like a evil-ish virtual reality console thing that he gets sucked into, and he battles his way through glitches and bugs manifested as enemies. Combat is extremely simple. You have a light slash that you can swing around like a crazy person, a heavy attack, and you can do both a jumping light and heavy attack. There's also a dodge, but that only seems to be like half reliable and only good for certain situations, especially deeper and later in the game. You recharge your beam katana just like Travis always does. You shake the controller like an idiot and he kind of jerks it off. If that sounds like that escalated really quickly, you probably haven't played a Suda game. Then you also find chips that you can equip to do special attacks like a stun blast or area effect stuff. The combat is fine. The feedback is really good. The sound effects are strong. And when the game gives you tons and tons of fodder enemies to run and slash through, the game almost could feel kind of like a bullet hell or something even more chaotic. But it's all a one-trick pony. Combat is so simple and doesn't really require too much thought, since the game doesn't really reward you for fighting any better or worse that much, and there's not much in the way of finesse or combos. It's not the worst by any means, but it did get old for me personally really quickly. However, there is some variety that keeps it alive in the levels and the structure itself. The game does have good old boss battles with like developers and sort of like corrupted self-aware in-game bosses that can be pretty fun, and collecting coins and items allows you to spend them in a store or in your downtime in the real world on like really cool freaking t-shirts that reference all sorts of games, like Papers, Please, Super Hot, Enter the Gungeon, Downwell, Hotline Miami. The game is packed to the gills with references, and it's pretty funny dialogue. But like I said, it's never overly try-hard or anything. If anything, it's still some of the best aspects of this game. The levels, though, first and foremost, I'll start with the bad. Some of them feel like they go on for way too long. They feel padded out just a bit too much that by the end of one, they start to feel like they outstay their welcome, and it becomes really tedious. Big time. But the variety between them all is really nice. Even though in every video game you jump into, you're still mostly just playing as Travis and slashing your way through everything, the games themselves feel different and present visual variety and a few mechanics here and there to keep things fresh. Also, like a little bit of a change in camera angle and perspective helps too. It does almost actually feel like you are jumping between video games. There's puzzle levels, spooky PS1 style haunted houses, and racing stuff, and I really did look forward to just seeing whatever the next one was gonna be. But also, I was a little bored of the combat and the levels went on a bit far too long, like I said. Also, during these sequences, I could never really figure out what the intention was to use up so much of the sides of the screens for stuff that isn't really useful. I get that old games had frames like this, I'm old enough to remember that, but still, I don't get it here. Now, to get new games for your Death Drive, you need to collect these balls that are each games. These are typically acquired by engaging in the game's visual novel section, itself designed to be like a really old school style visual novel game with perfect sound effects and visuals and music that you access separately. But often you need to engage in these to progress, and the problem is that they feel like side optional content if you want more story to read through, because there is so much. To me, it all felt like useless dialogue that didn't really mean anything. I know it's a story, a visual novel, but they went on for so long with me just mashing the button to get to the next dialogue when I really wanted to just get through and play the next hack and slash sequence. That's a bummer considering the rest of the game, writing-wise and stuff, is just so smart and charming. These sections just didn't really do it for me as much. Maybe it's a matter of personal taste, but it still really bummed me out. What is good is the co-op though, thankfully. You can play as Travis or Badman and kill through levels with a friend. Thankfully, the controls are pretty simple enough that it works well with others. Badman controls similarly, but he needs to be leveled up independently. And I think if you got somebody else who's into this type of thing, it's worth playing cooperatively for sure. Really, what I'm trying to say with all this is that, yes, if you were a Travis Touchdown fan or a Suda51 fan, yeah, absolutely, you should still play this. It's extremely flawed. A lot of it I'm not a fan of, but it's still got the charm. It's an okay game to pass the time. It's not a complete disaster, and hopefully it's just leading up to a full No More Heroes 3. I hope so at least, but I don't know. If you've never played one, you should start from the beginning. Don't start with this. But really, that's a before you buy. I give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion, and now I definitely want to hear yours down in the comments. Travis fans, No More Heroes fans, Suda51 fans, is this enough for you? Does this feel more like a phone game to pass the time or something like that? I'm happy to see that it does play like way more than a phone game. A lot of people have been throwing that out. I found it more substantial than that by a lot, but there are also a lot of reviewers and fan scores out there that aren't too keen on this one. I'm just kind of lukewarm on it, but I want to hear from you guys down in the comments. If you like this video, clicking the like button helps us out a ton. We really appreciate it, but if you're new, like I always say, you should consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell because we put out new videos every single day. But, as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.